with the PAC channel. Welcome, everybody. We are live streaming here with the World Ability Podcast Network. I'm Kurt Roskoff. We're proud, pleased, and privileged to have a nice show here called Blue Collar Crypto Show with Tim Tarosian. So we are bringing this out with all of our blue collar workers in mind. And as a result of our ongoing series, Tim has it designed that perhaps some of our blue collar workers might get a little bit more comfortable to dive in a little deeper to the subject of cryptocurrency. And then Tim's got a lot of other ideas that while people are working on cryptocurrency, a lot of other ideas in terms of things that can be done from home and participating in the marketplace. So we are ready to go with you, Tim. What do you have lined up for us today? We're ready. Take it away, Tim.
Hello. I want to just thank my co-hosts here, Kurt Roskoff, Emily Goldmer, Sue Roskoff. It's a team that has stuck together for a couple of years now. Looks like into the future they're going to stay together, which is great news. Also, if I might invite other people to have their own podcasts here. We really have space for you. It's not a financial commitment. I've been doing this show for a couple of years now. Treated relatively well by my co-hosts, and you know, there's something called confidence. It's helped me in my move from the blue collar world into the professional world. You need mentors around, and you need some people that are successful in their lives materially. They don't all have to be, you know, I have people that I know, but mentors are people that you associate with, right? And you can learn from. So mentors are very important. Let's start with that, right? So in the blue collar world, you have people that are responsible. They're hardworking. Let's say what's good about that. They put in a 40-hour week. Let's take inventory, right? Let's call this taking inventory. Are they mentors for your business world? Not necessarily, but they're all working. They're all putting in a number of hours. That's what you have to do if you start a business. And I am talking about starting a business here. So, so in the blue collar world, you're punching in and you're punching out. You're showing up at a location and you're leaving. I might even associate working at home as blue collar. Let's face it, if you punch in a certain number of hours at home and you punch out at home, that could be blue collar too, right? So is this the association you want as a business person? Yes and no, right? So let's broaden your exposure. Let's ask questions of people that have businesses, that own businesses, and find out what that's like. Because there are some similarities that all business owners have. They all have to do. They all have to report to the government, which all of us have to do anyway, but they have to do it as a business. So find mentors is what I'm saying. Find business mentors. Because when you venture out on your own, you don't want to do this totally on your own, right? Again, this is Blue Collar Crypto, and I'm trying to speak to those who might hear and help one or two people at a time. If that happens, then I've pretty much done my job. As with most things, we're not trying to influence hundreds and hundreds of people. I'm not trying to sell to hundreds and hundreds of people an idea here. I'm speaking to one or two of you out there, and let's be confident. Let's reach out. Mentorship is important. be a student, right? You don't necessarily have to go and get a degree to start your own business, right? Okay, you may get education along the way. Step out and do something. Take an action, right? Take a business action. Do something for somebody, charge money for it, right? And then if you're good at it, right, keep doing that. So I'm going to do a little math here because math is critical. It's important. So let's take some numbers. Let's say a bank account gets you today maybe 2%, 3%. And the numbers are a little bit higher, interest. And let's use the 30% number and what you can make on your on what you're doing. Let's call it a profit margin. What you spent in your time, what the money you put in, your expenses for your business, and let's call that the gross, all the expenses incurred in what you're doing, and let's call the net your profit. The gross is all the expenses when you provide that product, whatever it is. Is it a service or is it a physical product? There is a gross cost to that activity. What you want is the net profit. You want what you charge on top of that activity, all the money that you've spent on this activity. You want a margin on top of that called the net profit. That's what you get for your involvement from your customer. The customer gives you your profit. Without the customer, you have nothing. But with the customer, you have repeat business. Repeat business is the simplest term I can think of. Once you get a customer, it takes 10 times more to get the next customer. So you want to keep the customer you already have, because that customer will come back. If you take care of them, they will come back. And to go out and find a brand new customer, if you lose that customer, you have to go find one to replace that customer. So that's 10 times more effort to do. You have to advertise, you have to, introduce, you educate. That all costs money. So let's do some simple math. Let's say a business activity gets you 30%. And you're like, Tim, that's me, right? What is 30%? Okay. All right. Some people don't know, right? So let's say let's say my product costs $1,000. The effort I put into it, the money I put into it, the financial commitment I make, all expenses comes out to $1,000. And I want 30% to come back to me, right? I want to put in 1,000. And I'm saying 30%, let's, for instance, I want 30% profit on top of the expenses and everything. So for $1,000, let's add 30% onto that. And the product should cost $1,300, right? So I put $1,000 back into my business and I've made $300. So $1,000 in, 1,300 back, 1,300 back. That's 30%. And you have to do that because, don't get me wrong, you're not always going to make money every time you venture out, right? So there are times when you're going to lose money on a transaction. Okay, that's another show, right? So let's take $1,000 you've invested in your business. You get back 1,300 for 30%, right? So you leave that money in the business, right? This is business 101. You you know, when you go to work, you make your profit, you make your paycheck, and you spend all of it, right? In a business, you can't do that. You have to keep the money that you make inside the business. Okay. So you've got $1,000. You make you make 13 you get 1,300 back after you put in 1,000, right? Um, that's 30%. So you get that 1,300. Now you have 1,300. You had 1,000. Now you have 1,300. Now you make another 30%. So let's do some quick math. That's roughly $400 more. So you put the 1,300 in and you get back 1,700, right? You put in the 1,700 and you get 30% more on top of the 1,700. So that's roughly 500 more. So put in 1,700 and now you get 2,200. From 2,200, you add 30% onto that, which is roughly 700. So you have 2,900, roughly $3,000. Now you did this a couple times. You went from 1,000 to 3,000. Now you're building a business. The thing to remember is, you pay yourself, right? So out of your earnings, you make a paycheck for yourself, the same every week. You kind of don't want to take your paycheck out of the business, but you kind of have to, right? You kind of have to, right? So you started with 1,000, you have 3,000. We're going to keep going. 3,000 plus 30% is roughly $4,000. We went 3 to 4. 4,000 plus 30% is $5,200. So 4,000. Now you have 3 times 400. That's now you went from 4,000 to 5,200. 5,200. Now you got about 6,800. About 7,000. 7,000 plus 30%. You got 9,000. 9,000 plus 30% is 12,000. You started with 1,000. Now you have $12,000 every time you've made 30% on your margin profit. Let's use the word profit. Okay, now you have 12,000. You started with 1,000. Now you have 12,000. The numbers get better, right? From 12,000, you got 16,000. That's 30%. 16,000. 22,000 is 30% on top of 16,000 is 22,000. It's fun, right? Mostly because you kept your money inside the business, right? Now, let's say every time you made a 30% on $1,000, you took out the 30%. Well, that's not going to work, right? You put in 1,000, you make 1,300, you take the 300 off. You put in another 1,000, you put in 300, you make 300, you take the 300 off. You constantly are staying at $1,000. It's a mental calculation to keep your personal financial business separate in the form of perhaps a paycheck from your company. Establish your own paycheck, hourly wage. Now your company is paying you just like you were doing a blue collar job, except now this is the company that you own and you're getting a paycheck from your own company instead of somebody else's company. Now this is a good situation. You're paying yourself. Now every day you wake up, you're the boss. There's a tendency in blue collar, I think, is you go home, you leave your job, the job is there. You just show up, right? You do roughly the same thing every day. In your own business, you're kind of varying your hats. One day you're an accountant, one day you're making the product physically. Maybe you make pizzas, right? Another day you're cleaning, you're the janitor. You're wearing they do that in a factory too. When they switch you around to different parts of the factory, they do that too. But in this case, you're getting value for everything you do, and that value comes directly back to you. In a factory, you're working for somebody else and you're indirectly getting compensated. And you are getting a little tiny piece of the pie, a little tiny piece of the profit. A lot less control over your professional life if you're in a factory. I'm just using the factory as an example. So let's consider starting your own business and how your life would change if you did that. Having said that, if you're in the Madison area, they are hiring pretty good wages at the place that I'm at. They pay roughly $25 an hour, and they are hiring, and there's a big demand for workers where I work at in Madison, Wisconsin. So if you're out there and you're looking for some kind of employment, it behooves me to pass that on. Second shift or first shift, somewhere between 23 and $30 an hour, 24 and 30, something like that, when all is said and done. Currently I have a goal I might mention on this show of 100 grand my first year of income. If I take this job that I'm mentioning, I'll probably hit that goal of 100 grand, right? Of not dollars that I have, but rate of income, rate of what different income sources that I have. For the first year, my goal is 100 grand, right? 100,000. And for year number 2 is 200,000, right? That's my income goal for year number 2. And another goal inside of there is to buy a house, and also from a tax deed, I can purchase a house. And also the goal is to own a business. I'm working on all these together. So the first thing I mentioned was when I started was having a mentor, hang out a little bit with a business owner and ask him questions. How does this work? How do you conduct this business? Right? So mentorship. And the second thing is goals. A goal. GOALS with my Midwestern twang, right? Goals. What are your goals? What are your financial goals? If you're working in a factory, you're going to have to crunch the numbers, right? What are my expenses? And what am I making? And do they match? Am I spending more than I'm making? Because if you go into your own business, you can't do that, right? You can't spend more than you make. It's possible to do that as if you have a credit card, but in a business, you're the boss and your expenses are the business's expenses. So mentorship and setting your financial goals for roughly, in terms of how much you want to earn, how much you think you're worth, and going out there and looking for income opportunities. And that's what this show is all about, is going out and finding different streams of income, different ways to maximize your time so that you can earn more. Two different ways to earn is to, be a blue collar person or own your own company. But there's a lot of variations on the theme of earning. I mentioned last week, tax liens and tax deeds, a very lucrative way and a very safe way to earn money. That's in the real estate area. So I'm going to conclude this show. I hope I haven't given you too much. I always think that I'm giving you too much, but in order to start your own business, it's really not rocket science. There are a lot of people called mentors who can show you how. And there are subjects I will touch on to be a mentor here, but having 2 or 3 mentors would be ideal. You want to get there faster, mentorship and setting financial goals. So I'm going to sign off. Thank you for the excellent sponsorship and co-hosts associated with this program. And if you want to do a podcast, hey, you have something to say, you want to share your knowledge, get with this program and we can get you started.